Welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, the podcast that dives deep into the stories of trailblazers who shape our world. Our co-host, Lulu Benavidez, is a seasoned entrepreneur in the beauty industry, is a photographer, artist, and the proud owner of Lulu's The Salon in Galveston, Texas. Our other co-host, Krokonis Hanson, is a visionary in the entrepreneurial world with years of experience in business innovation and development. Together, they bring you insights, inspiration, and the journeys of remarkable individuals who have made their mark. And with that, let's get started. Tamara Dunahoe is a somatic dance coach, trauma-informed yoga teacher, and holistic personal trainer dedicated to mind-body healing. As a distinguished member of the International Dance Council, she integrates mindfulness and ancient movement practices to help women reconnect with their bodies, restore balance, and cultivate deep transformation. Before dedicating her career to wellness, Tamara spent 15 years in corporate marketing. However, after the sudden loss of her mother, she embarked on a profound healing journey, navigating grief, chronic pain, and daily stress. This experience led her to somatic healing, where she discovered the power of movement in emotional and physical recovery. Today, she is a passionate advocate for those living with chronic pain, using her own journey to guide others towards healing and resilience. Certified in the Somatic Activated Healing Method, Tamara's practice combines meditation, movement, dance, breathwork, and mantra to create deep, transformative experiences. Committed to building a thriving somatic dance community in Texas, she co-hosts wellness retreats, teaches yoga on the beach, and leads weekly somatic dance classes in Galveston. Beyond movement, Tamara serves as a mentor and coach, helping individuals break through emotional barriers, embrace self-discovery, and find lasting joy. Her work is more than just physical healing, it's about empowerment, connection, and personal growth. Today, we're honored to have her on the podcast to share her journey, insights, and the transformative power of somatic healing. Please welcome Tamara Dunahoe.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. I'm your co-host, Lulu Benavidez, along with my co-host, Krokonis Hanson. And today's episode is one that speaks straight from the heart and the body. Joining us is the incredible Tamara Dunahoe. She is a trauma yoga teacher, personal trainer, and a somatic dance coach. And I'm a proud member of an International Dance Council. After 15 years in the corporate world, Tamara turned her personal grief and healing into a mission to help others and reconnect with themselves through somatic movement and mindfulness. From yoga on the beach to a building, thriving somatic dance community right here in Galveston, Tamara has worked in all about creating joy, balance, and transformation. I can't wait to hear her story, so let's dive in.
Yeah, Tamara, it's a powerful story, and let's start at the beginning. So when did you decide to leave the corporate world and to go into a more healing profession?
Yeah, good question, Sue. Thanks. It's actually, I think it's funny at this point in my life because I've actually been fired 3 times in the corporate world. So that wasn't a coincidence. And, it doesn't feel good, but, not to go into details, but there were, I just wasn't at the right place that I belonged, really. Mm-hmm. I'm a really great worker, and I show up on time, and I do all the things, but I'm realizing even today, you can see I do all these different things, all these different kind of modalities that I work with. I'm just a true believer in following your passions as far as whatever is lighting you up right now. Mm-hmm. That might not be lighting you up in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, and that's okay. So as far as my story goes, it would be the 3rd time that I got fired, which was just really during the pandemic. It was in 2021. And I was devastated, but only for about 24 hours, because then I was reminded that at that time I had already become a yoga teacher. I did my training for my own personal healing and growth. So I was already certified to teach, just I wasn't. And so 24 hours after I got fired and I was over all my crying and what am I going to do with myself, I was just kind of reminded that I was already ready to take that next step and full-on entrepreneurship at that point. I was even angry. I was like, I'm not working for another person for the rest of my life. Like how much energy I'm putting out there and what I'm doing. I have to put that into myself.
Right.
And I started doing that, and it was not easy. Specifically, being a yoga teacher at the time, yoga teachers are not paid, I'll say fairly, for the energy that they're putting out there. You know, it's an energetic exchange, and we could say money is a part of that, right? But it's really an energetic exchange. And I think yoga teachers are, we're not paid necessarily for what we're giving. So I'll just say I was teaching maybe 20 yoga classes a week, which is insane.
Yes, that's a lot.
It's a lot, because I was just so determined to take my passion and turn it into my income. And that's not always the direction that we should be going, but it happened to be the direction I went, because I was determined to not have to go back into the bureaucracy and the politics of the corporate world. I felt like I didn't have any control over my time off and my schedule, my life. So just all of those things, just kept me determined to do my own thing. And then so I started teaching yoga, and then I started positioning myself as teaching yoga for groups on the beach, and I started to get contacted by like birthday parties and bachelorette parties, which was really unexpected. And then they would have me come out to their beach house or wherever they were gathering, you know. So then it just kind of picked up from there. But ultimately, to answer your question, Sue, I was kind of forced out of the corporate world. And for years, I knew that that's not where I belonged. There were days I woke up and I would cry before I was supposed to start my job. I knew it was soul sucking, to say the least, but I really don't know what it would have taken for me to
Tamara,
actually find the
I
courage
don't
to
even
make
know,
the decision myself.
Time goes by so quickly.
So it was just an absolute blessing that I was let go.
Years ago as a
and I
yoga
said, well,
teacher.
this is it.
You came
we can
to
call
me
it a coincidence or not,
at my salon.
I just really
And
was
yoga,
done. So
did
here we
a
are,
yoga
if
class
that
for
answers
me
your
for
question.
several months, and then I went to the gym that I now take personal training from you. And one thing that you have taught me is, being a yoga teacher, is how to breathe. I mean, I learned how to breathe before, but lifting weights or doing yoga, it's all about breathing. And that's, I tell everybody that you have taught me that so much, and I love you for that. But one thing that one of the questions I want to ask you is that you've been very open about the loss of your mother. You lost your mother when you were 26, and Sue lost her father when she was 18, and I lost my mother when I was 10. Can you tell us what your personal grief has shaped your work today? Because I know that grief comes to us all in different forms. When you're a child and only 10 years old and you lose your mother, and then you're 18 or 26, you're a little bit older, but it still doesn't, you still have that grief. It just comes in different forms. Can you explain, tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And you're so right, what you said about grief kind of comes in different forms. It comes in waves, I like to say. Because some, and it's been almost 10 years for me since she passed. And so it definitely has changed over the years. And this is the perfect question to lead us into the somatics discussion of what I do, because what I learned before I got into somatics, and I was just teaching yoga, and I was really just trying to find ways to keep myself feeling grounded, because I would just kind of spiral off into these deep, dark, I'll say crying spells. It's just, you just feel hopeless in that moment. You feel like it's never going to end. Things are never going to get any better. And then you start kind of, or at least for me, I started kind of grasping externally for things and people that just might make me feel better, which is quite natural. So just along this journey, I started understanding that moving my body helped me feel better. Breathing in the present moment, actually understanding that I could control my breath and watching the effects of that made me feel better.
Excuse me.
And overall, it was just something that I could come back to as a daily practice, just to bring me back home to myself, I'll say. So that's what yoga was doing for me at the time. I didn't realize how it would lead into a career where I was helping others in the same way. At the time, I was just worried about like pulling myself up from drowning in this little lake of grief that I was swimming in. And I think to add to that, what makes it different for all of us, like at that time I was in the corporate world, very stressful job, a lot of responsibilities, a serious boyfriend at the time, I had family. I mean, I couldn't imagine going through it with kids. None of those for me. I just remember wanting to distract myself, truly. I wanted to escape the heavy feelings of grief. I felt very alone in my grief. I could go on, but it wasn't something that I was willing to sit with. In fact, I was wanting to escape from it. Mm-hmm. And then that led me into kind of a darker road. I was drinking a lot, really distracting myself, period. And sometimes yoga can even be a distraction. Instead of sitting with my feelings of grief and letting it move through my body and just be. I didn't want to feel that. I wanted to make it go away, like most of us do. And so I found other activities that would simply distract me from my grief, to be honest. And this is what we do, not just with grief, but a lot of the heavier emotions, especially anger, rage, sadness, which are all kind of the same. But often, especially as women, we've been conditioned, we've been taught to suppress those feelings, or at least not express them. Because if you see an angry woman, you know, we can't control an angry woman. You know, so it's just the culmination of everything that I was taught. I wanted to suppress, I wanted to numb. I didn't really want to be in the grief. I didn't want to acknowledge it. I had a lot of anger toward the Western medical system and how my mother had been not quite cared for in the way that she deserved. So in the grief conversation, forgiveness is kind of woven in right there too, depending on what kind of grieving we're talking about. But all I can say is the grief taught me it's changed a lot over the years, but today my grief helps me understand the depth that I have to love. Like the grief, the heaviness, it reminds me how much I loved my mother and still do. So the heavier the feelings, the deeper capacity you have for love, which is actually quite beautiful when you sit back and look at it. And then us as human beings, really, we're in a constant state of grief, because each moment that passes us by, each present moment here and now, is going to pass by, never to return again. You know, we'll never be together in this exact moment, having this exact conversation. It's going to pass by. As human beings, we're in this constant state of, oh wait, I don't want this to go away. I don't want this to end. And then we get attached to that. And then that's kind of what causes us suffering, is us not wanting to let go, not wanting to let things change and evolve. So this whole process has just taught me how to come back to myself in the present moment, feel the grief, feel whatever feeling is coming up. And my practice with that, with myself and my own feelings, allows me to stay present and to truly hold space for other women that need support, either during a huge transitional time in their lives, or maybe they are grieving the loss of someone or something, a relationship even. So I'm going to say my personal work on myself is really what allows me to hold space for others. And you've got to work on yourself before you even have the capacity to hold space for another person. So I've learned that along the way too. It wasn't like, oh, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm ready to help the whole world. It was kind
Yes,
of like,
yes, it does.
wow, as I practice and I sit with myself, it was just uncovering all the ways I still was not honoring my feelings and honoring the sensations of my body and listening to my body and noticing my breath, you know. So yeah, if that answers your question, maybe.
I wish that I had known you and about you sooner. Lulu said, I lost my father quite young, but I lost my mother, my stepfather, my best friend, and my husband in a period of about 3.5 years. I'm a good product of a German family where you just auto-delete, you just put everything in little compartments and you move ahead and you move ahead. And it wasn't until my husband passed away that I really realized that I hadn't dealt with any of the grief in my life. And it's hard because, you know, you hear people, oh, they're grieving, grief this, grief that. But to really have to sort of deal with what that means. And in my case, for the first time, I was disinterested. I was really and I'm one of those people that I like new adventures. I like new things. I like meeting new people. And I was just very disinterested and tired. And, you know, so I am really interested to hear, because I don't really know what this somatic healing dance is all about. But boy, I think women, because we're such nurturers, are used to taking care of everybody else. But when it comes to us, we really don't know how to help ourselves. So please tell us about your practice and what you do. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are really interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, things really started to shift for me when I went into the somatic work. So this isn't yoga that we're talking about necessarily. Yoga is a somatic practice. So the root word of somatic is soma, which really just means in the body. Okay. So yes, yoga is a somatic practice. We're paying attention to the body and the sensations that we're feeling in the body as we're doing postures and breathing. But when we talk about somatic work and somatic dance, our purpose, our intention is to keep our awareness in our body. So most of the time as we operate as human beings out in this world, if you're not quite aware, usually you're living up here in your head. Your mind, your ego is making decisions for you, and you're having all sorts of thoughts coming in, and sometimes we grab at them and then we identify with those thoughts, and then it kind of runs you for a little loop, and then you're like, what happened? And I don't feel so great. And, you know, so just we're up in our heads a lot. And so when it comes to somatics, I train my clients, or you would learn to sharpen your focus so well that you can keep your focus on how you are feeling in every moment that passes by. And when I say feeling, it might not be, I feel sad. Oh, I'm feeling grief. It might be, I feel this heaviness in my upper back. I feel this literal knot in my stomach, or I keep having this like twitching behind my right eye, kind of comes and goes. So I'm just giving you real examples, but these are the feelings, the sensations that we're talking about that we train our mind to become aware of. Some of these sensations in your body are quite subtle, that it takes practice. You keep going back until finally you can sense these feelings, because a lot of us are desensitized to these natural feelings of our body. Some of that's because of our distractions. Some of that is just our mind isn't in the body, it's in the head, or even on someone else or some other place, often in the past or in the future. We're worried about what happened or what hasn't happened, because this moment right here can sometimes be uncomfortable. Why? Because we are noticing sensations in our body. We don't necessarily know what to do with them or about them. And then so we try to suppress them. We numb them. Sometimes that's with food, drink, sex, shopping. I could go on, the ways that we distract ourselves and try to numb those feelings. And I'll say most of us, we don't even know that we're doing this. We're not even conscious of, oh, this feeling is coming up. I don't like it. I'm going to buy something. It just happens unconsciously. So the process of working with me, we bring that awareness to the feelings and sensations that are basically messages from your nervous system, your body as a messenger. I train you to be with the sensations, to allow them to know that there are no good and there's no bad, that those feelings are just asking for your attention. So basically you sit quietly. I would recommend you close your eyes, and then you just kind of scan your body and until you find some of these sensations, and then you just give them your attention, which is hard sometimes because we're distracted and we're thinking about this and that. So essentially we are honoring the body as a messenger. What is the message? The message is usually, hey, there's something that you're ready to process. I'm going to bring this up for you to notice. And then it's your job to feel it and then to let it move through you and out of you. So usually these sensations, these feelings that are coming up in our body, they are typically stored emotional residue from past experiences that we have not allowed ourselves to feel and to process.
Can you say that again? Because that is so good. That is just fantastic.
Yeah, and I could say it again in another way, and I'll tie this into explaining somatic dance specifically. So in somatic dance, we're on the dance floor. We've got a great playlist that I've put together, but we are combining periods of stillness where we're actually meditating with our eyes closed, really tuning into our bodies and tracking those sensations and just being with them. That's one part of it, is the meditation, the focus. The other parts are the movement, the dance. So there's specific somatic movements or postures that we do with our breath. For example, it might be inhale, inhale, exhale. So that's just an example of how we move and we breathe. So that's a somatic posture with our breath. And then there's periods in the class where we just dance however we want to dance. You let your body move intuitively. It might not be cute. We're not here to be cute. We're not performing. In fact, a lot of the times we're dancing with our eyes closed so we can feel the dance, so we can feel how our body wants us to move. All right, so we're combining meditation, breath, movement, and mantra, which is spoken word or affirmations you've probably heard. So we combine all of these modalities, and done in this very specific way, it literally creates a movement pathway so you can free these emotional residues and move them up and out of your body. You can feel instantaneous shifts while you're in class, while you're doing these practices with me. Of course, I work with one-on-one with clients, but it's one of the only things that I've actually experienced that gives me instant change in my body, an instantaneous shift in my energy. So the dance, the music, all the modalities put together provide like a little place, a little safe place for these emotional residues to just be moved out of your body. And I want to say this, if we leave this residue untouched, unacknowledged, eventually that it's kind of blocking the natural flow of energy through your body. Think like if something was stuck here, my energy will kind of get hung up as it tries to flow through, and it might eventually stop. And then it's at these places where that energy isn't able to freely flow that tissues, your physical tissues, actually start to deteriorate, and we cause disease or dis-ease in the body. And taking this back full circle, I'm not saying this is the absolute only way that it is, but I really think I began all of this work because I never understood why my mom got cancer. That's actually why she passed. And when I started diving deep into this work, it made so much sense to me of what she was physically holding on to, a lot of trauma that she went through that she absolutely didn't even speak of. So I know she didn't process it or give herself time to feel it. So it's all kind of one big picture for me that, I'm just determined to keep myself healthy as long as possible and help other women understand that we are in more control of our health than we think. And there are things that you can take on yourself to make yourself feel better, to get yourself healthier. We can talk about breath all day long. That's a whole little thing you can tap into at any time. But it's more about us understanding that the way we feel, our physical body, how we actually feel, influences the way that we think about the world. So maybe I look out and I only see negativity and I only think this world is just crashing down. But if we change the way we can actually sense ourselves and sense the beautiful messages coming from our body, and when we know how to decode those and then what to do next, it really does change your whole perspective of the world. And you see this world as such a beautiful place that's full of life. And there's an opportunity in every present moment to find healing and to create change for yourself and those around you, especially if you can do it in community. So we don't have to do all this healing and this grieving alone. It's more about us coming together, knowing that we really are all feeling the same things. And that's really what I'm trying to do with the dance community in Texas and specifically in Galveston. We have to know that we're safe with each other. And why not build a community around dance? Because it's so much fun.
This sounds so
you dance
powerful
with other people.
And,
you're
the
really,
movement, the mantra.
You're kind of letting your guard down. You're really letting go of those false beliefs, and you're surrendering
what you do
just
to your
the
clients and how you
and there's
provide
something
for your
beautiful that
clients.
happens with the other people.
So I'm
in
ready
the
to
room
sign up.
that you just can't duplicate. So all of that community.
God, that is so powerful. And I see you a couple times a week in the gym, and then we lift weights, and and I talked about the breathing, but the dancing part, the movement, the other
Every
part
Thursday
is
night, girl. Y'all
I
gotta
was
come
talking to a
down.
friend of mine yesterday.
Towson?
When we interviewed Carlos, and he does yoga, and he's 80 years old, and he talks about taking care of your body, and it's so important. So that's what you do. That's what you do in dance, and to be able to dance with other people and not criticize yourself, just do it. It's so powerful. So dancing, huh?
I can just see Lulu out there. She's got a whole new passion, yeah. So, I want to go back to something, and this could be off, but I know it originally said when you were doing yoga, you were doing it on the beach. Now you're doing your dance classes in groups, and it's just kind of begs the question, like, how much does the environment that you're doing these things come into play?
This is such a great question. It really is. I like to, how do I say this? I think I'm really, really good at what I do because I take this into such consideration first. So, for example, I was contacted just a couple weeks ago because there's this wonderful group coming to Galveston, and they're going to do a women's retreat, a digital detox retreat. And she found me, and she wanted to know if I could come teach yoga and teach dance at her Galveston retreat. So of course we made that happen. But questions that I was asking was, where did she want to practice the yoga? What were her expectations? Blah, blah, blah. So normally, if it's yoga on the beach, I love teaching yoga on the beach because it's not really even about the yoga. It's, can you feel the sun on your skin? Can you feel that breeze blowing on your skin and maybe blowing through your hair? We can always hear seagulls off in the distance going crazy about something, and we've got clouds overhead and we've got the waves always right there. And so when I'm teaching, no matter what I'm teaching, my goal is to just bring you totally into the experience, into the now. What are you feeling? What do you smell? What do you taste? So I love teaching outdoors. What do you hear? For that very reason. And I think people really appreciate that because they get to experience the islands, not just we're taking this yoga class and we might get a little sandy. No, it's all of this, and you're a part of all of this. And so to answer the question there, that's how yoga on the beach goes. And I make sure that we are in a place where we are semi-private too, because everyone deserves that. But when it comes to the dancing, now, since we're moving this emotional residue up and out of our bodies, sometimes we will have a physical release. So there might be tears, there might be sweat, there might be yawning, there might be a little shaking, a little, so it doesn't matter. I mean, everything is welcome, but it is important that I put you in a safe place that you feel comfortable allowing that surrender to that experience. And that's why us being in community, all on the same page about our intention, is that we all kind of hold space for each other to really let go and allow that to finally move through us. And you'll feel that lightness move in as you agree to finally let something move through you. So as far as the dance, I make sure that we are in a safe, private space. And that is always my priority for that reason. And then sometimes not only mantras, but we're yelling sometimes. We might just be like, oh, or it might actually be, ah, like whatever.
That's my Tuesday. Tuesdays always sound like that at my house.
Yeah, so it's like I've been to a class before. It was a class I attended with one of my teachers, but we were in a building, office building, and we actually had people knocking on the door asking us like, are y'all okay in there? Because we're just like, so I do really take that into consideration, and I want you to have the best experience and feel safe. And obviously we can do this online. You can be safe in your own home, dancing in your own space, and I can be there with you. So yeah, it's very important. And that's where the trauma-informed training comes in too. Just making sure that people feel safe with what we're asking them to do. And I always start out class or private sessions with setting an intention. So you and the group, you're very clear on what we're trying to work through in that moment together. Yeah.
And that's kind of where the personal work comes, doesn't it? Because the reality is things that are painful, we really don't want to bring up and deal with. But the reality is if you don't deal with them, they just fester. And part of it is just realizing, getting to the root cause. Like you said, it was really about, why did your mother have to get cancer? Our very good friend Lulu and I, my very best girlfriend, just a beautiful, stunning lady, got a rare form of Alzheimer's and just, became unrecognizable practically. And you just think, and she was a lovely, generous, beautiful, giving person. And you're just trying to process, we want to find an answer. Right? Why could this happen? How did this happen? Could this happen to me? Could this happen to other people? But sometimes we don't get an answer. We just get that we have to deal and move on and live the way in respect to those people that we hold in our heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that too, whether we're dancing in a group or individually together, it's part of my teaching. It's a Buddhist philosophy. It's kind of the underlying foundation for all of this. And everything in Buddhist philosophy is about us being one, us being connected, the collective. So in other words, I end my classes with a prayer. And our prayer is always that we dance for those that can't dance any longer. And we use that voice for those that no longer have a voice. And we acknowledge the unseen forces around us that are supporting us day in and day out. We send our prayers to all sentient beings across the globe, whether you know them or not, you see them or not, like no exceptions. We send out our prayers to everyone. And that's who we dance for, not just to move that through ourselves, but to be that, to be the embodiment of healing for those that
I just want to cry.
maybe can't do it anymore because they've passed, or maybe they don't have the energy, they don't have the resources
looking ahead,
to even start.
What's your
so
vision
we're not
for
just dancing for
the
ourselves.
somatic dance
And I dance for my
community
mom
you're
and
building
her
in
healing
Texas?
all the time. So it really is about community, any which way you want to look at it. That's okay. That's welcome. Yeah, I think, we have a lot of fun, even though we're doing all this serious work. And it really doesn't have anything to do with somatics, but I'm also alcohol free. I've been alcohol free for about 3 years. And I think I'm not going to be picky. I want to bring people together that want change in their lives. They want to make healing a priority. They understand, like Sue said, that if I just let this fester and I don't address it, it is going to wreak some havoc in my life at some point down the line. Either in my body or in my relationships. It will manifest somewhere if we don't acknowledge it, right? So there's different avenues that I'm taking to try to meet the right people and bring everybody together. But I just want people, if you want to feel better, you want to find true joy inside, come dance. Because joy cannot be created. Joy is actually already in you, and you find it by being so present with yourself and doing what you love, really, whatever that could be, that joy just rises up within your being. And so I think I just want to be with people that are on a relentless pursuit of joy, to just experience life to the fullest. And once I have a little tight-knit community built, I'm getting there, we're getting there, but I want to then, host some retreats overseas, maybe in Thailand or Costa Rica, and, have our little community here invited to join.
Awesome. I'm ready.
Maybe we do beach cleanups once a month, and we get together and we just help the island, and maybe we make some sandwiches on a Saturday and we just go hand them out to those that are hungry.
Yes, I did.
We can do anything we want in community. We're just going to get there and do those things.
That's cool. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Please, you have to come.
Lulu has a circle of friends that I think could be persuaded to come to Galveston and do this. I think I can see this happening.
She's told me about some of her friends. I know they like to have fun.
Fun. I will just say this, but one of the pluses that came out of my loss was there's this group of women that Lulu and we've worked together for years. But I'm one of those people, I was always too busy working. I didn't make time for myself. If I was doing something, it would be with my husband or with my family. And part of my healing process is I started saying, yes, I can do that trip. Yes, why wouldn't I do that with the girls? And it's probably part of the best healing that I've done, because there's nothing better than good friends, laughter, when you can laugh at each other and your own stories. Like you said, you realize how much you all have in common. It's been a real blessing, So, yeah.
Beautiful. I'm so glad.
Yeah, because Lulu, this little techno, sophisticated, that ain't all that's there. Let me tell you, wicked sense of humor. Anyway, we always, not only like to put a spotlight on, the person and their path and what their message is, which you've shared so beautifully. But one of the things that our audience kind of has taken to liking to is we do this thing, which is just, we call it, like the Fast Five. We just try to, share things with people about what's going on in other people's lives. So if you're willing to play, I'd like to ask you 5 questions. And the whole point is it's not to be thought through and in-depth answers and whatever. It's kind of like when I ask the question, what's the first thing that kind of pops into your mind? And I think people it's always interesting to get a little look into other people's worlds. So are you up for it?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay. What's your happy place?
Walking on the beach right before sunset, maybe finding some shark's teeth.
That's pretty cool. Who's on your playlist?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one. Music is such a big thing. I enjoy like dancing around in my kitchen when I'm cooking. It's old school R&B, like that making love music.
Yeah. I'm all about it. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to a good friend or that you just think is a really worthwhile endeavor?
Oh my God, I have books all over the place. That is so hard. I'm such a bookworm. I can tell you currently I'm reading a book called The Celestine Prophecy. It's with a C. But this book is all about understanding that coincidences are not just coincidences, and that when you're present and one of these coincidences happens to you, that you should follow that and trust in that. And that's kind of like being in the flow, is when you can trust and follow the coincidences. So the Celestine Prophecy is an awesome one.
Do you have a favorite motto or a quote that you kind of...
Yes, use it or lose it is absolutely true. Motion is lotion, kind of in the same.
Yeah, same thing. Okay. If your story was written into a movie, who would you cast to play your part?
Oh my gosh. I can't think of her name. Maybe y'all know her name because she's so silly and quirky, so I feel like I relate to her. Okay. Oh my gosh, y'all.
Lady Gaga?
Okay, she was in these movies with Bradley Cooper. She's younger than me. Oh my gosh. Okay. She was in...
To start with Bradley Cooper.
I hope all this gets edited out right now, but what is her name? This is a hard one. Okay, maybe somebody like that. But what is her name, y'all? Okay, the Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes,
Jennifer.
Yes, yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes, she's fabulous.
Right?
Yeah,
she's so funny and just like I'm pretty much like that too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting us get to know you better as a person and what your journey is. And I just can't wait to keep having conversations with Lulu about what's going on with the somatic dance, because I just think the whole concept is so wonderful, because it's just wonderful. I just salute you for having the courage to jump in and go for it. It's great.
Yes, absolutely. I am mostly on Instagram. If you ever want to DM me directly, I'm totally open for that. It's just my first and last name is my little handle on Instagram. And then from there, you can sign up for my quarterly newsletter. I communicate with my community often. I'll let you know what I'm doing on the island, how you can join me in classes or retreats, or if you want to work with me one-on-one. I talk about my offerings there. Thursday nights at 6 o'clock, if you happen to be in Galveston, I've got my somatic dance class every Thursday at Healing House, which is a beautiful yoga studio here. And yeah,
when that's going to happen.
Instagram is the best way to reach out to me.
Well, Tamara, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your energy with us. We're so happy to have you on this podcast. As always, we want to thank you for joining Sue and I on Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Until next time, keep creating, keep moving, and keep showing up for yourself. Thank you.
Wow, what an episode. That wraps up another exciting edition of Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're leaving inspired and ready to chase your dreams. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode over at youtube.com/Artists, Icons, Entrepreneurs, as well as Facebook at Lulu Benavidez, on IG at Lulu Benavidez, at Evolve Hair Solutions as well. And don't forget to visit our website at lulubenavidez.com and evolvehairsolutions.com to stay updated. Until next time, keep dreaming big, creating boldly, and making your mark on the world. Thanks for listening, and take care, everyone.